Bigfoot has been watching us, studying humanity for thousands of years, and what he communicated to me about what we really are should terrify every person on this planet. I'm 68 years old now, and for 23 years I've carried a secret that has given me nightmares and cost me my marriage, my peace of mind, and my faith in our species. What I learned in those woods wasn't about discovering a new primate or solving a cryptozoological mystery. It was about seeing ourselves through the eyes of an intelligence that has observed human civilization rise and fall, watching us from the shadows. My name is Marcus Whitfield. I'm a retired FBI special agent who spent 30 years in the Behavioral Analysis Unit profiling serial killers and understanding the darkest aspects of human nature. And this is the story I was ordered to bury, the confrontation that showed me we are not the apex predator we believe ourselves to be. We are something far worse. September 17, 2002, Gifford-Pinchot National Forest, southern Washington state, approximately 40 miles northeast of the Columbia River Gorge. The temperature had dropped to the low 40s and fog rolled through the valleys like something alive. I was there investigating a series of disappearances, 4 hikers over 18 months. Local law enforcement had requested FBI assistance, and our working theory was a possible serial predator using the wilderness to dispose of bodies my partner had returned to Seattle for evidence processing, leaving me alone in some of the most remote old-growth forest in the Pacific Northwest. The Douglas firs and western hemlocks stretched over 200 feet tall, their massive trunks disappearing into the mist. The understory was thick with ferns and moss, and the volcanic soil made for treacherous footing. What struck me first was the silence. In 15 years of field work, I'd learned to read environments, and this one was wrong. No bird calls, no small animals rustling through the underbrush, just the sound of water dripping from branches and my own breathing. I was setting up motion cameras near a game trail where we'd found personal effects from one of the missing hikers when I noticed something odd: trees marked with systematic scratches at about 9 to 10 feet height. My training kicked in immediately. Pattern recognition is what the Behavioral Analysis Unit does. These marks were territorial, deliberate, and they didn't match any known animal behavior. Then I heard it. A sound that wasn't quite animal and wasn't quite human. Guttural, but with tonal variation that suggested language. Every instinct I'd honed from profiling predators signaled one thing: intelligent threat. Movement in my peripheral vision, too large, too deliberate, too coordinated. I initially dismissed it as a bear, but then I noticed the stride length was wrong. Bipedal locomotion. No sound despite movement through dense brush that should have cracked and rustled under any creature's weight. I realized with a chill that something was circling my position, observing me. My radio went dead, equipment malfunction or interference, I couldn't tell. The GPS signal flickered and died. I felt the shift in that moment, from investigator to investigated. Then I saw him clearly, 40 yards away, partially obscured by a massive cedar trunk. I'm 6'1", and this creature stood nearly 2 feet taller than me. I estimated 8 feet 2 inches, massively muscled, probably 600 to 700 pounds, with shoulders 4 feet wide. Dark brown, almost black hair covered his body, 4 to 6 inches long, lighter on the chest, but it was the face that stopped my heart. Pronounced brow ridge, deep-set eyes, flat nose, human-like, but elongated. He stood fully upright, balanced, hands at his sides, not aggressive, but assessing. And those eyes. Amber gold, fully focused, calculating, intelligent. I could see details that made this encounter undeniable. 5 fingers with opposable thumbs. He was holding something. A carved wooden object, a tool. A visible footprint in the mud nearby stretched 18 inches long, human-shaped, with clear dermal ridges. His musculature wasn't like a gorilla's knuckle-walking build, but like a human bodybuilder, scaled up to impossible proportions. His movement was fluid, controlled, with no wasted motion. This was trained, practiced stealth. I could see his breath in the cold air, controlled and deliberate despite his size. The scent reached me, musky, organic but not foul, like wet fur and pine sap. Our eyes met and held for what my mind registered as 8 to 10 seconds but felt like hours. My hand moved instinctively toward my weapon. His response was a slight head tilt. No fear, no aggression, recognition. In that moment, I understood with absolute clarity that this being knew what a gun was, understood the threat it represented, and wasn't afraid. More disturbing, his eyes showed pity, not fear. The communication was wordless but unmistakable. You don't understand what you're dealing with? The first 3 seconds were pure disbelief, my mind rejecting what my eyes reported. The next 5 seconds brought a fear response, adrenaline spike, every fight or flight instinct screaming. Then came profound cognitive dissonance. This is impossible, yet undeniably real. But my profiler training engaged almost automatically. Read body language, assess threat level. My conclusion, not aggressive, not prey-driven, curious. The overriding emotion became awe mixed with primal terror. I had a choice to make in that moment. Draw my weapon, call for backup, treat this as dangerous wildlife, retreat slowly, report the encounter, bring a team back, or hold position, attempt communication, gather intelligence. I made my decision. My holster remained closed. I raised my hands, showing empty palms. My reasoning was simple. If this creature wanted me dead, I'd already be dead. My profiler logic told me the subject showed curiosity, not predation, understanding, not animal instinct. I spoke aloud, my voice sounding strange in the oppressive silence. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm looking for missing people. His response changed everything. He stepped fully into view, no longer partially hidden. He raised one hand, palm forward, mirroring my gesture. Then he made a sound, low, resonant, like words but not English-controlled vocalization. He gestured, pointing northeast, then at the ground, then at me. Then he reached down, picked up a torn piece of fabric. I recognized it immediately as part of the jacket belonging to missing hiker number 3. He extended the fabric toward me across the distance. The message was clear. I know what you're looking for. I know about them. I was compelled to engage. This creature had knowledge of the missing persons. He showed clear intelligence, communication attempts, tool use, symbolic gestures. This was an opportunity to gather intelligence regardless of the source. But beyond professional duty, this was the most profound encounter of my life. I couldn't walk away. I stepped forward and accepted the fabric evidence. The creature didn't retreat. He maintained distance, but didn't flee. In that moment, we had mutual acknowledgement, 2 intelligent beings making first contact. He turned, looked back over his shoulder, and waited. It was a clear invitation to follow. I made a decision that would change my life forever. I called in a false radio report about equipment malfunction and staying overnight to complete camera setup. Then I followed the creature into the deepest part of the forest I had chosen, investigation over protocol, truth over career safety. There was no turning back. We traveled 3.7 miles to a remote ravine location. His camp was organized, deliberate, showing long-term presence. And there I found what I'd been searching for, the remains of all 4 missing hikers, carefully arranged, covered with branches. But these people hadn't been killed by this creature. The bodies showed signs of animal predation from cougars, evidence of falls, exposure to the elements. The creature had collected them and laid them to rest with obvious care. He was showing me the truth, not predator, but witness, even caretaker. I made the decision not to report immediately. If an FBI team came in with helicopters and weapons, this creature would vanish or be hunted. This was bigger than one case. This was potential first contact with an intelligent species. I would document everything, maintain contact, and learn what I could before revealing anything. I had crossed a line, but I believed it was the right choice. That first night, he gestured for me to sit. He offered food, berries, edible roots, clearly gathered rather than hunted. I shared a protein bar, and he examined the wrapper with obvious fascination. I attempted communication using simple words and gestures. He responded with sounds and drawings in the dirt. His first drawing showed stick figure humans with radiating lines. Many. His second drawing showed a stick figure like himself, alone. His third drawing showed human figures with X marks over them. I received his message loud and clear. You are many, I am few. Your kind is dangerous. Over the following weeks, I maintained my cover story while making regular visits to the ravine. I brought supplies, established a gifting routine, and documented everything in hidden notebooks. The physical exhaustion was tremendous, working my official investigation during the day and maintaining secret contact in the evenings. The psychological strain of knowing the truth while filing false reports about the missing persons ate at me constantly. By the second week, we'd made a communication breakthrough. The creature began responding to my name when I pointed to myself and said, Marcus. I named him Gray because of the gray patches visible in his dark fur. We developed a system of simple signs. Pointing combined with a head shake meant no or danger. Pointing with a nod meant yes or safe. Hand to ear meant listen. Hand over eyes meant hide or watch. Then came a critical moment when Gray drew in dirt again, human figures in a circle, one human separated and alone. He pointed at me, then at the separated figure. His message was clear. You are different from them. You are like me. Alone. I established a routine of visiting Monday, Wednesday, and Friday after official work hours. I brought food, water, basic medical supplies, and notebooks for documentation. Gray was always present at the same location, waiting for me. We'd exchange food, attempt communication, and Gray would show me things. Ancient stone tools his ancestors had made cave paintings in a hidden cave with handprints and pictographs of his species. Tree structures that weren't random but territorial markers. A water source he protected, keeping it clean and removing human trash. In week 4, I had a close call. My partner unexpectedly joined me in the field, and I had to lead him away from the ravine location. Gray remained hidden, but I could feel him watching. My partner commented that I seemed distracted and asked if I was okay. I had to lie, claiming frustration with lack of leads. That night, Gray made sounds outside my tent. I had to pretend to sleep while my partner investigated. Gray vanished without a trace, but left a mark on a nearby tree, the danger symbol we'd established. Trust built slowly over those first 3 months. In week 7, I slipped on wet rock and gashed my leg badly. Gray appeared immediately. He'd been watching nearby. He guided me to sit and examined the wound carefully. Then he gathered specific plants, yarrow and plantain, chewed the leaves into a poultice, and applied it to my wound. The wound healed remarkably fast with no infection. My trust deepened. Gray had medical knowledge and wanted to help. In week 9, Gray presented me with a carved wooden figurine, small, human-shaped, remarkably detailed. He held it cupped in his hands and offered it reverently. I understood this was sacred, something precious he was giving me. I reciprocated by giving him my FBI badge. He studied it intently, traced the letters with one massive finger, and kept it carefully. It was an exchange of identity, a symbol of mutual respect. Week 11 brought another trust-building moment. A black bear wandered into the ravine while I was present. The bear was aggressive and defensive, charging toward me. Gray stepped between us and made a thunderous vocalization that echoed through the trees. He stood at his full height, over 8 feet, with arms spread wide, utterly dominant. The bear fled immediately. Gray turned and checked me for injury, showing genuine concern. In that moment, I felt with absolute certainty that this being would fight to protect me. Over those first 3 months, I began to understand Gray's unexpected abilities. He figured out how my flashlight worked, unscrewing the cap to examine the batteries. He perfectly recalled the location of items I'd left weeks before. He cleared alternate paths to the ravine for winter access. He understood when I was stressed and adjusted his behavior accordingly, becoming quieter and more patient. He drew timelines in the dirt showing seasons passing and indicated through an elaborate series of marks how long he'd lived in this area, many cycles that suggested decades at minimum. I realized something profound during this period. Gray was teaching me not just being studied. He showed me which plants were safe and which were poisonous. He demonstrated how to move silently through the forest. He corrected my hand gestures for better communication. The roles had reversed. I was the subject being studied, and Gray was the researcher. By month 3, Gray began bringing me to observation points, showing me where hiking trails were and where humans camped. The revelation hit me hard. Gray had been watching humans for years, possibly decades. He had collected items spanning different time periods, coins from various decades, old bullets, belt buckles. He drew pictures showing humans with weapons and figures like himself running. He drew a timeline with many of his kind long ago and few now. He drew humans growing in numbers and spreading. His message was becoming clear. Your species is dangerous to mine. At the end of the 3rd month, I asked Gray a question that changed everything. Using gestures and the understanding we'd built, I asked, "How long have you been watching us? Watching humans?" Gray stopped and became very still. Then he drew in the dirt with more detail than ever before, a timeline showing seasons and years with counting marks. His own figure at the start of the timeline and the same figure at the end. Human figures changing clothes, tools, and technology across the timeline, I counted approximately 40 to 50 years of marks. But then Gray pointed to himself, held up fingers, and kept adding. He pointed to the trees, to the mountains, things that were old, ancient. I understood with creeping horror that he'd been here much longer than 40 or 50 years. Gray nodded slowly when he saw my realization. Then he drew one more image that made my blood run cold. A human skull, and Gray's hand covering it gently. Beside it, many human skulls with humans covering nothing. It was my first glimpse of the terrifying revelation. Gray had witnessed human violence, death, and cruelty across generations. He'd seen things about us that we tried desperately to hide from ourselves. The official case closed shortly after. The bodies were recovered through my tracking efforts and ruled accidental deaths. I was reassigned but requested a transfer to the Seattle field office. It was close enough to visit Gray regularly. My decision had solidified. This secret was worth protecting. But a question haunted me constantly. What does Gray know about us that terrifies him into hiding? His eyes always held something I couldn't quite read. Knowledge, judgment, and grief all mixed together. I knew the real revelation was still coming. Over the next 3 years, from 2002 to 2005, our routine solidified. I made weekend visits to Gifford Pinchot, a 120-mile drive from Seattle. I established a semi-permanent campsite near Gray's territory and brought supplies, food, books, maps, and photographs of human civilization. Gray's receptiveness grew. He welcomed me like a scheduled appointment, and our communication system matured to over 50 consistent signs, drawings, and gestures. In 2003, we had a major breakthrough. Gray began using objects to represent abstract concepts. A stone meant permanent, ancient, strong. A leaf meant temporary, changing, weak. Water meant life, necessary, cleansing. Fire meant dangerous, transformative, human. We created a simple vocabulary of over 200 agreed-upon meanings. Gray demonstrated understanding of complex ideas: time, death, family, loneliness. Most shocking, he counted in a base 5 system and took the time to teach it to me. This implied mathematics, abstract thinking, and culture. But this deeper relationship came at a cost. My wife Sarah grew suspicious of my weekend hiking trips every single week without fail. Our marriage strained under the weight of my obsession. She told me I wasn't myself anymore, that I was fixated on something I wouldn't share, I couldn't explain. The secret was too big, too dangerous. I chose Gray over marriage stability, rationalizing that this was a discovery of the century worth any personal cost. But the cost was real, growing emotional distance from my wife, my friends, and any semblance of normal life. In 2004 and 2005, Gray's teaching intensified. He showed me a hidden valley with evidence of his people once living there. Stone circles that had been dwelling sites, ancient fire pits, decades old, burial cairns. The most powerful moment came when Gray took me to a burial site with 4 cairns, 2 larger ones that might have been parents, and 2 smaller ones that could have been siblings. Gray sat before them and made a low mourning sound that seemed to come from deep in his chest. I understood then that Gray was the last of his family group. Through gestures, I asked how this had happened. Gray drew humans with guns, loud sounds representing gunfire, and running figures falling. Based on his timeline marks, this had occurred in approximately the 1970s. Gray had survived by hiding, watching, and waiting. He'd been alone for over 30 years. Then, in 2005, Gray began showing me what I've come to think of as his observation logs. He'd collected newspapers, flyers, and photographs found in trash and campsites. He'd organized them by year and by type of content. The categories he'd created chilled me: violence, crime photos, war images, murder headlines, destruction, environmental damage, clear-cut forests, pollution, deception, political scandals, corporate fraud, lies exposed. He pointed to each category, then at me. He drew humans doing these things to other humans and to nature, constantly and repeatedly. His message was unmistakable. This is what I've watched. This is what your species does. I began seeing humanity through Gray's eyes, and it changed me. Gray had witnessed decades of human cruelty. From his perspective, humans murdered each other, destroyed the environment, and lied as naturally as breathing. He'd watched hikers leaving trash in pristine wilderness, hunters killing animals for sport and leaving carcasses to rot, loggers destroying old-growth forests that had stood for centuries. Gray's conclusion was visible in his demeanor: sadness, resignation, and fear. I felt shame and wanted to be defensive, but I couldn't argue with the evidence he'd accumulated. A question formed in my mind that I couldn't shake. What else has Gray concluded about us? In 2006, Sarah filed for divorce. She told me she didn't know who I was anymore. I didn't fight it because I knew she was right. I threw myself deeper into my relationship with Gray. Ironically, I was promoted to senior special agent. That same year, I was excelling at work while living a complete double life. I used my position to monitor reports of Bigfoot sightings and actively suppressed investigations near Gray's territory. I had become Gray's unwitting protector within the very system I'd served for nearly 2 decades. Our communication evolved further in 2006 and 2007. Gray started using my notebooks and learned to recognize written words: yes, no, danger, human, safe. He began circling words in the newspapers I brought and created his own journal, using drawings combined with circled words to tell stories. Story 1, humans plus guns plus Gray's people equals death. Story 2, humans plus fire plus forest equals destruction. Story 3, humans plus humans equals violence, illustrated with crime photos he'd collected. Every single story showed humans causing harm. In 2007, an incident occurred that crystallized Gray's judgment of humanity. Trophy hunters entered his territory and shot a deer. They left the carcass to rot, taking only the head for mounting. Gray watched from hiding and showed me the scene afterward. For the first time, I saw him truly angry. He demonstrated how humans kill for pleasure rather than food, contrasting it with his own method of hunting only when necessary, using everything, and burying remains with respect. His gestures were emphatic. You are wasteful, cruel, disrespectful. I couldn't defend it. I'd seen the same behavior countless times and knew he was right. In 2008, Gray revealed more of what he'd witnessed over his lifetime. He showed me old bullet scars on his body from 3 separate incidents: a scar from a steel leg trap in the 1980s, a mark on his shoulder from a logging chain he'd narrowly escaped. Each scar told a story of human cruelty or carelessness. Gray had been shot at simply for existing. He'd been hunted like an animal. He'd survived multiple attempts on his life. I asked through gestures why he didn't leave to find others of his kind. Gray's response was heartbreaking. This was home. His family was buried here, and nowhere was safe from humans. That same year, I brought an iPad to show Gray videos. He was fascinated by nature documentaries and recognized the animals. Then I showed him news clips of wars, terrorism, and violence. Gray recoiled and pushed the iPad away. He drew immediately. Humans plus weapons plus other humans equals death. The same pattern repeated endlessly. Then he drew a scale comparison. Many humans killing each other, humans still thriving. Few of Gray's people dying, his species nearly extinct. The implication was devastating. Humans kill each other by the millions and survive as a species. Gray's people lost just a few members and faced extinction. Gray's judgment was clear in his expression. Humans are too violent to coexist with anything, even themselves. My own crisis of faith came in 2008 and 2009. I'd spent my career profiling serial killers and studying human darkness. I realized Gray had been doing the same thing, but he was observing our entire species. Gray's conclusion mirrored what I saw in the worst individuals I'd ever studied. Humans are collectively what serial killers are individually. Violent, deceptive, destructive. Without remorse, I tried to show Gray human goodness, charity, art, love, compassion. He acknowledged these things existed, but then he pointed to the ratio. He'd bring 10 newspapers, and 9 would have violence on the front page while only 1 had good news. His message was clear. Goodness is the exception. Violence is the rule. In 2009, I had another close call. A primatologist received a grant to study Gifford Pinchot and began setting up camera traps and collecting hair samples. The research was getting too close to Gray's core territory. I used my FBI credentials to visit the researcher and claimed a federal investigation required the removal of cameras from a specific area. The researcher was suspicious, but complied with what appeared to be an official order. I realized in that moment I was using my power to hide Gray, which constituted obstruction of justice. I'd crossed another ethical line. But my conviction remained. Gray's existence was more important than bureaucratic rules. From 2009 to 2014, the years brought changes that felt like a gathering storm. In 2010, I first noticed Gray moving slower, stiffer in cold weather. The gray patches in his hair had spread, especially around his face. I realized with shock that Gray was elderly. If he'd survived since the attack in the 1970s as an adult, he was now possibly 60 to 70 years old or more. Time was limited. I felt pressure to understand his full message before it was too late. In 2011, I asked Gray directly about the worst thing he'd seen humans do. Gray became very still, then led me deeper into the forest than we'd ever gone, to a hidden grove with an unnatural silence. He showed me a ground depression, decades old but still visible. He drew in the dirt, many of his kind, adults and children, and humans with guns. He circled a word from a newspaper I'd brought weeks before: massacre. He pointed to the ground. Here. This happened here. Gray's entire family group murdered in 1972. Gray had hidden and watched his people killed. Then he'd buried them alone, the sole survivor of an extinction event. I understood then that Gray had witnessed genocide. Over 2011 and 2012, Gray began a systematic education, showing me what he'd observed about human nature over his lifetime. Not just isolated violence, but patterns of behavior that never changed. Humans lie constantly in politics, advertising, and relationships. Gray showed me campaign promises versus actual actions, product claims versus reality. He'd collected evidence of human deception spanning decades. Humans destroy without need, causing environmental devastation. He showed me how the forest had been reduced year by year, his territory shrinking by 60%. Humans cut trees to make paper to print lies. Humans kill their own kind systematically through war, murder, and genocide. Gray's collection included photos he'd found of Vietnam, Rwanda, the September 11th attacks, and school shootings. The pattern was repeating, escalating, never learning. Humans don't honor their dead, leaving mass graves, forgetting soldiers, allowing the homeless to die in streets. Gray contrasted this with his careful burial of every creature he found. Humans treated death casually, bodies as objects. Most disturbing, humans feel no shame. They repeat harmful behaviors and justify cruelty. Gray showed me the same politicians caught lying and then re-elected, the same companies polluting and continuing after paying fines as mere business costs. Humans knew the harm they caused and chose profit or power anyway. By 2012, I had a horrified understanding of what Gray had been doing. He wasn't just observing humans. He was building a case against humanity, the way I'd built profiles of serial killers for 30 years. Gray's conclusion was that humans were the dominant species, but used that dominance for cruelty. His species had been killed by humans for sport, fear, or land. Gray had spent decades watching the killers of his family thrive, and spread his judgment was accurate, and I couldn't deny it. That year, I brought Gray a mirror. He'd never seen his own reflection. Gray studied himself carefully, then looked at me. He pointed to his own eyes, then to mine. He drew our faces side by side. Then he drew his face with blood on the hands and crossed it out. No. He drew humans with blood on their hands and circled it. Yes. His message hit me like a physical blow. We look similar, but I am not the monster you are. I broke down and wept because it was true. Gray comforted me, placing a massive hand on my shoulder and making a gentle sound. The profound reversal of that moment, the so-called monster comforting an FBI agent, stays with me still. In 2013, another crisis emerged. A logging company purchased land adjacent to Gray's territory and planned a resort development with cabins, roads, and a golf course. Gray showed me survey markers and construction plans he'd found in a dumpster. His territory would be destroyed, leaving no place to hide. I used my FBI connections to leak information to environmental groups. I helped organize protests, legal challenges, and investigations. The development was delayed and eventually canceled. But I'd committed federal crimes, theft of documents, intimidation, to protect Gray. I realized I'd become exactly what I'd spent my career prosecuting, someone operating outside the law for what they believed was a greater good. In 2013 and 2014, I asked Gray existential questions. Why did he stay here? Why not hate all humans? His response came over several sessions. He pointed to me. You're different, some humans can see. He drew many humans and crossed them out, then circled a few. Some good ones exist, rare but present. He showed me newspaper articles about conservationists and peacemakers. Then he drew himself and circled the figure. He wrote one word I'd taught him: last. I am last I watch because I am witness. I understood then that Gray bore witness to his people's extinction. He documented human behavior as testimony. He stayed because leaving meant no one would remember his people existed. Gray's purpose was to remember, document, and survive as living evidence. From 2014 to 2022, the weight of knowledge began unraveling my life. In 2015, colleagues noticed my erratic behavior, long absences, secretiveness, distraction. I was passed over for a promotion with vague concerns about team fit. I started drinking to cope with the knowledge of human darkness that Gray had shown me. Gray noticed the smell of alcohol and showed concern. I explained through our signs that it was hard to live among humans knowing what he'd shown me. Gray's response was to place his hand over his heart, then over mine. His message was clear. I understand the burden, I carry it too. In 2016, I showed Gray a smartphone and the internet, giving him a guided tour of social media. He spent an hour scrolling and saw cyberbullying, revenge porn, hate speech, and misinformation. He saw people performing their lives for likes and cruelty treated as entertainment. Gray pushed the phone away and made a sound of distress. He drew the familiar pattern, humans plus humans equals violence, but added something new. Now, violence was everywhere, all the time in their hands. Gray's observation was that humans had weaponized connection itself. I couldn't argue. Social media had shown human cruelty operating at unprecedented scale. In 2017, I explained climate change to Gray, the Earth warming due to human activity. Gray already knew. He showed me drawings documenting seasonal changes over decades. Winters were shorter with less snow. Springs came earlier, confusing plant cycles. Summers were hotter with more frequent fires. Animals were migrating, their patterns disrupted. Gray had documented ecological collapse for over 40 years with scientific precision. He drew the Earth, then humans burning things, then the Earth sick. His understanding was simple but accurate. Humans were poisoning their home. I told him we knew we were doing it, but couldn't stop ourselves. The look Gray gave me combined pity with contempt. In 2018, I showed Gray photographs of human children playing, their faces full of innocence. Gray studied them carefully and made soft sounds. He drew small humans transforming into large humans, innocent children becoming violent adults. His gesture asked a profound question. What happens? How do they become like you? I tried to explain culture, society, trauma, and systems. Gray listened, then drew a baby of his own kind and crossed it out. None left. The juxtaposition was stark. Humans had children and a future, yet taught those children to continue patterns of violence. Gray's people had no children and no future, but they'd never taught violence. Gray's judgment was clear. Humans waste their future. In 2019, my moral collapse became complete. I retired early from the FBI. I couldn't continue enforcing laws when I believed the entire species was guilty of greater crimes than any individual I'd ever arrested. I spent my retirement visiting Gray, documenting our interactions and drinking. I isolated myself from all human contact except necessary interactions. I saw humans through Gray's eyes now, violent, deceptive, doomed. Gray became the only relationship that felt real. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd found humanity in a non-human being and lost it in my own species. In 2020, I had another dangerous close call. A hobbyist flying a drone captured footage of an unclear figure that was too large for a human. The video went viral online with claims of Bigfoot finally caught on camera. Media descended on Gifford Pinchot's, panicked, and contacted old FBI colleagues, using every bit of influence I had left to suppress the investigation. I claimed the video was a hoax, even though I knew it wasn't. I got the video removed from mainstream platforms through intimidation and favors. I was fully corrupted now, actively covering up truth to protect Gray. Gray watched the chaos from hiding and saw humans obsessed with finding him. He drew humans with cameras and himself, then drew himself dead. His pattern was clear. Human curiosity always ended in violence for his kind. The pandemic year of 2020 and 2021 brought unexpected complications. COVID-19 meant I couldn't visit for months. When I finally returned, Gray showed me he'd been watching from a distance. He'd collected masks, sanitizer bottles, and newspapers about deaths. He understood humans were facing a plague and dying by the millions. But Gray's reaction wasn't satisfaction or vindication. It was sadness. He drew humans dying, then drew his own people dying in 1972. He was drawing a parallel: loss, grief, extinction fears. His message was that he understood human suffering and felt compassion. Despite everything humans had done to his kind, I realized then that Gray was more humane than humans. He mourned our deaths, even though we'd killed his people. In 2021 and 2022, Gray became frailer. Arthritis made movement difficult. His memory had occasional lapses. There was an urgency now. Gray needed to complete my education before time ran out. He conducted a systematic review of all the evidence he'd collected over 50-plus years. His conclusion, demonstrated through months of patient teaching, was the terrifying truth about humanity. Humans are apex predators who prey on each other. Humans have the capacity for good but systematically choose evil. Humans know they're destroying everything but cannot stop themselves. Humans will drive other species to extinction for convenience, profit, or fear. Humans are intelligent enough to know better, but lack the wisdom to do better. Humans are the most dangerous species because they kill with purpose, at scale, and without remorse. Most terrifying of all, humans will destroy themselves and everything else with them, knowingly and deliberately. Gray's evidence had been collected over 50 years of careful observation. His pattern recognition showed violence, deception, and destruction increasing rather than decreasing. Gray's fear wasn't for himself. He was old and dying anyway. His fear was for the Earth. He drew the Earth without humans, showing life continuing. He drew the Earth with humans, showing eventual death of everything. By 2022, I'd achieved complete understanding of what Gray had been trying to tell me for 2 decades. Gray had watched humanity for half a century. He'd documented human behavior with scientific detachment. His conclusion was that humans are the monster species, intelligent enough to dominate but not wise enough to steward. We're capable of love, but systematically choose hate. The terrifying part is that humans know we're wrong and do it anyway. Gray's people died out because humans killed them. Humans will die out because we kill everything, including ourselves. Gray survived by hiding from humans. The Earth will survive only by outlasting humans. Winter 2023 brought the crisis and turning point. In January, I noticed Gray struggling to climb to his cave. By February, he couldn't make the journey to observation points. In March, he stopped eating regularly and appeared confused. Age was finally catching up with him. At an estimated 70 to 80 years old, I panicked, realizing Gray was dying and his revelation would die with him. In March, I found Gray collapsed, fevered, and barely conscious. He had a respiratory infection, possibly pneumonia. At his age and size, it would be fatal without intervention. I faced an impossible dilemma. Bringing in help meant exposing Gray, but letting him die meant losing everything. I had to choose between risking his secret or risking his life. I called Dr. Sarah Chen, a veterinarian specializing in exotic animals who'd worked with the FBI on wildlife trafficking cases. She was trustworthy, discreet, and had a scientific mind. I told her I needed help off the books, that it was life or death, and I couldn't explain over the phone. Sarah agreed to meet me in the forest, saying, "This better be good, Marcus." When I led Sarah to Gray's cave in late March, her reaction was everything I'd expected. Disbelief, shock, but then her professional curiosity took over. She examined Gray and said words I'll never forget. "This is impossible, but he's real, and he's dying." She administered antibiotics, IV fluids, and oxygen. She stayed 3 days treating Gray. He was too weak to resist and seemed to trust my judgment. Sarah asked the questions I knew were coming. How long had I known? How many were there? Who else knew? I answered honestly. 23 years. Only Gray left. Only she and I knew. Through April, Gray recovered. The antibiotics worked. His fever broke and his breathing improved. Sarah visited weekly to monitor his recovery, fascinated by her patient. Gray accepted her, recognizing she'd saved his life. Sarah's transformation was profound. "I've studied primates my whole career," she told me. "Nothing prepared me for this. He's not an animal, Marcus. He's a person." The trust circle had expanded. Now 3 of us kept the secret. Sarah demanded to know what I'd learned in 23 years. When I hesitated, she pressed harder. "I've risked my license and my reputation. I deserve to know." I made a decision. I would show her what Gray had shown me. From April to May 2023, Marcus and Gray together educated Sarah. She saw Gray's collection and decades of documentation. Her journey was compressed into weeks, what had taken me years. She went through the same stages: initial defensiveness about human goodness, then recognition of the patterns, finally acceptance. "He's right," she said quietly one day. "We are the monster species." 3-way communication became possible. Sarah helped translate medical and scientific concepts. Gray showed her the same patterns he'd shown me. But Sarah brought the perspective of someone who'd seen human cruelty to animals firsthand. She confirmed Gray's observations were scientifically accurate. In June 2023, Gray showed us something new. He'd found the corpse of another of his kind 30 miles away. During his last long journey, before his illness. A young male shot by a hunter and left to rot Gray had buried him and marked the grave. He'd searched for survivors and found none. Sarah collected DNA samples that confirmed the body belonged to the same species as Gray. The implication was staggering. Others of Gray's kind had existed until very recently. Humans were still killing them. Sarah asked the question that would change everything. Are there more? Could Gray's species survive? I replied that Gray thought he was the last, but this young body meant there might be others. Gray responded through gestures. If others existed, they were hiding like him, alone and terrified. Sarah said we had to do something, document this, protect them. I countered. Protect them from who? From us? We're the threat. Gray drew his familiar pattern, human with gun, his kind running, humans chasing. The pattern was always the same: humans hunt, humans kill. Through June and July, Sarah and I debated what to do. Sarah's position was clear. We have to go public, get legal protection, habitat preservation. Scientists could study them non-invasively. The world deserves to know they exist. We can't let them go extinct without trying to save them. My counter-argument came from 23 years of experience. Going public means Gray becomes a specimen, a prisoner, or dead. Remember what happened to every indigenous species humans discovered: circuses, zoos, labs, museums. That's Gray's future if revealed. He survived 23 years by staying hidden. Revelation is a death sentence. Gray drew two scenarios. In one, he remained hidden, alive, alone, but safe. In the other, he was revealed, surrounded by many humans, then dead or caged. His preference was clear: stay hidden. But he also drew the young one who'd been killed, alone, with a question mark. If others existed, they needed protection. Gray was caught between his own survival and his species' survival. Then came the complication. Sarah discovered the logging company had renewed development plans. A new survey showed 80% of Gray's territory scheduled for clear-cutting. The timeline was approved, starting fall 2023. Gray's home would be destroyed. He'd have no place left to hide. Our options were narrowing: reveal and fight legally, or try to relocate Gray. But where would be safe? External pressure increased. A former FBI colleague called and said, "Marcus, we need to talk." There was an internal investigation into my obstruction of Bigfoot investigations over the years. Someone had noticed the pattern: Marcus Whitfield suppressing evidence near Gifford Pinchot. My colleague asked directly, "Are you protecting something or hiding something?" The heat was increasing. I couldn't maintain secrecy much longer. Sarah made her final plea. "Gray is dying, Marcus. Maybe not today, but soon. He's elderly. This young one's DNA proves they exist. We have evidence. If we don't act now, Gray's people go extinct with no one knowing they existed. Is that what Gray wants? To be forgotten? His species erased from history?" In late July, I asked Gray directly what he wanted: truth or secrecy, species remembered or hidden. Gray took a long time responding. Finally, he drew himself alone, dying, disappearing, then drew blank space, forgotten. Then he drew his figure carved in stone, permanent, remembered. He drew many of his people and circled them, those who came before. He pointed to the current date on my calendar, then pointed ahead to the future. His message was clear: I want my people remembered, but I fear what humans will do with the truth. I had a crisis of conscience. Keeping Gray secret protected one individual, but condemned an entire species to extinction without acknowledgement. Gray's people had been killed, forgotten, and erased from existence. Was that mercy? Or was it another form of violence? Had I spent 23 years protecting Gray, or protecting myself from making a hard choice? In late July 2023, I told Gray I was going to tell the truth. About him, about what he'd shown me, about what humans really are. Gray's reaction was fear, then acceptance. He drew me speaking, humans listening, and a question mark, unknown outcome. Then he placed his hand on my shoulder and nodded. Permission was granted. I could tell the story, but Gray added one more drawing, himself hiding, staying safe. Our agreement was clear. I would tell, Sarah would provide scientific documentation, but Gray remained protected with his location secret. We developed a plan, document everything with photos, videos, and DNA evidence. Sarah would provide scientific analysis, proving the species existed and showed intelligence. I would give testimony about the 23-year relationship, our communication, and observations. Gray's evidence collection would demonstrate decades of human behavioral documentation. We'd present everything to select scientists, conservationists, and legal experts. The goal was to force protection without revealing Gray's location. We set the announcement date for September 17, 2023, exactly 21 years after our first encounter. The risks were enormous. The government would come, FBI, fish, and wildlife, possibly military. A media circus would be impossible to control. Hunters, fortune seekers, and cryptozoologists would search for Gray. The scientific community would demand access to Gray for study. Gray's life as a hidden being would be over forever. Sarah and I would see our careers destroyed and possibly face criminal charges, but the species might be protected. Survivors might be found. Gray's people would be remembered. Gray prepared a final contribution, a statement through drawings that Sarah translated. His message to humanity through me was, "You are the most dangerous species because you know you're wrong and continue anyway. I watched you kill my family, destroy my home, and poison your world. I survived by hiding from you. Others should not have to. Remember us not as monsters you feared, but as people you destroyed. The terrifying truth is that I am not afraid of what you might do to me. I am afraid of what you're already doing to everything else." In August 2023, we couldn't wait until September. The FBI investigation was accelerating. Logging was approved to begin October 1st. Another body was found, a female of Gray's species, 50 miles north, dead from a trap. Sarah said, "They're dying while we debate. We're out of time." We decided to go public immediately on August 15th, 2023. We'd gathered 23 years of documentation, notebooks, journals, and drawings. Sarah's medical files contained DNA analysis, physical examinations, and treatment records. We had photographs of Gray with his permission, videos showing his intelligence and communication, and physical evidence including hair samples, blood samples, and footprint casts. Gray's collection of decades of human observation documentation was cataloged. We had DNA from 2 other deceased individuals. The scientific proof was irrefutable evidence of a distinct hominin species. Our allies were few but positioned correctly. Dr. Sarah Chen brought scientific credibility. Dr. James Morrison, a primatologist and Sarah's colleague, provided DNA verification. Rebecca Thorne, an environmental attorney, handled legal strategy. My brother, a journalist, served as our media contact for controlled release. 5 people in a tight circle with legal protection. Our strategy was simultaneous release. A scientific paper would go to a preprint server and peer-reviewed journal submission. A press conference would invite major media outlets. A legal filing would submit an Endangered Species Act emergency petition. Evidence would be released on a website with location data redacted. The goal was overwhelming, coordinated, and irrefutable release to prevent government seizure and suppression and ensure information spread too fast to contain. From August 1st to 14th, we prepared everything. We drafted a scientific paper titled Documentation of Living North American Hominin 23-Year Observational Study. We prepared legal documents for an emergency protection order for an unspecified location. We created a secure website to host evidence on distributed servers. I wrote my press statement and recorded video showing evidence with Gray visible, but his face obscured. Gray reviewed all materials and gave final approval through gesture. He insisted we show evidence of human violence toward his kind. The message wasn't, "Look at this amazing discovery," but "Look what you've been killing." My prepared statement read, "For 23 years, I have known the truth. Bigfoot exists. They are not monsters, they are not animals, they are people, an ancient hominin species that has survived in hiding from humanity, I know, because one of them, whom I call Gray, trusted me enough to show me not just his existence, but his truth about us. What he showed me, what he documented over 50 years of watching humanity from the shadows, should terrify every person hearing this. He showed me that we are the monster species, that we kill without need, destroy without thought, and lie without conscience. He showed me that his entire people were hunted to near extinction by ours, not for food or safety, but for sport and fear. He showed me that we are intelligent enough to dominate the earth, but lack the wisdom to deserve that dominance. I am revealing this truth not to celebrate a discovery, but to indict ourselves. Gray's species is dying because of us. We have a choice. Do we protect what's left, or do we finish what we started? That choice will define whether we are worthy of calling ourselves the intelligent species. On August 15, 2023, at 6 a.m. Eastern Time, we executed the plan. The paper uploaded to the preprint server, the legal petition filed in federal court in Washington, D.C. The website activated with all evidence, public press releases went to major outlets. The simultaneous coordination put information everywhere at once. At noon, we held the press conference at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C. I stood at the podium with my full FBI credentials and 30-year career behind me. I read my statement. Sarah presented scientific evidence, DNA analysis, and medical documentation. We showed photographs, video clips, and physical evidence. We took questions for 45 minutes from hostile and supportive press alike. We released Gray's message to humanity by 3 p.m. The internet had exploded. The hashtag Bigfoot confirmed was trending worldwide. The scientific community engaged in immediate debate. Skepticism was high, but the evidence was compelling. The government response was predictable. Investigating claims cannot confirm at this time. Conspiracy theorists amplified the story with "we told you so" messages that were unhelpful but spread information. Conservation groups made emergency calls for protection. Hunters and cryptozoologists immediately began planning expeditions to find more. By evening, all three network news shows led with our story. Cable news ran 24/7 coverage with panels of experts. Social media made the revelation viral beyond any possibility of control. International coverage began as the world reacted. My phone showed over 1,000 missed calls. The FBI demanded I report immediately. I called Gray's location through Sarah, and he responded that he was safe, hidden, and watching. He understood humanity's reaction and had expected chaos. The first 24 hours brought predictable madness. The scientific paper received 500,000 downloads with journals fast-tracking peer review. The website logged 10 million visitors and strained our servers. A federal judge ordered an emergency hearing on the legal petition. The FBI issued a warrant for my arrest on charges of obstruction and theft of government property. I surrendered to authorities, was arrested, and released on bail. Sarah's medical license came under review with an investigation opened. Gray's location was bombarded with searchers, but the specific coordinates remained secret. Gifford Pinchot was flooded with people, and the Forest Service was overwhelmed. Public reaction was divided. Believers felt vindicated and celebrated. Skeptics demanded more proof and called it a hoax despite overwhelming evidence. Scientists were divided between those convinced by the data and those wanting a physical specimen to examine. The government scrambled to form task forces coordinating NSA, FBI, and USDA responses. Environmental groups demanded immediate protection. Religious groups debated theological implications. The general public was fascinated, terrified, and overwhelmed. Everyone asked the same question: where is he? Where is Gray? My refusal was absolute. Gray's location will never be revealed by me. He has survived this long by staying hidden from humanity. Revealing his location would be signing his death warrant. The point of this revelation is not to put Gray in a cage or museum. It's to force humanity to protect what's left of his species. Gray stays hidden. That's non-negotiable. Sarah and I had relocated Gray to an alternate site we'd prepared in advance. No one knew the new location except us. We maintained video calls for daily check-ins. Gray's emotional state was anxious but determined. His message through Sarah was clear. I survived by hiding. I will continue hiding, but my people will be remembered. The consequences were immediate and severe. In the first week, Gifford Pinchot was overrun with over 50,000 people. Bigfoot hunters brought guns. Cryptozoologists brought equipment. Tourists took selfies. Media crews went everywhere. Helicopters and drones filled the air. The Forest Service issued an emergency closure and deployed the National Guard. Neighboring forests faced similar invasions. Indigenous tribes issued statements confirming their traditional knowledge of the species. 3 people died from heart attacks, hypothermia, and a shooting accident. 47 injuries were reported. The government response evolved in phases. Days 1 and 2 were denial. The White House, FBI, and Department of Interior all claimed they were investigating, but couldn't confirm anything. Days 3 through 5 brought evidence phase. Independent DNA analysis from 3 labs confirmed a distinct hominin species. A primatologist panel reviewed our footage and declared it consistent with intelligent hominin behavior. Physical evidence passed forensic review. Scientific consensus emerged that the evidence was too strong to dismiss. Days 6 and 7 brought policy phase, emergency cabinet meetings, interagency task force formation, and public announcement that species existence was confirmed, with protection measures forthcoming. Official denials came from every agency. The NSA claimed no prior knowledge, which was a lie because classified files existed. The FBI admitted I'd acted alone without authorization, which was true. The Forest Service claimed no previous evidence in their possession. Another lie because they'd suppressed reports for decades. The CIA offered no comment on any operations, which was telling because it implied knowledge the pattern was clear. Each agency denying, pointing fingers, and covering tracks. From weeks 2 through 4, the scientific community engaged fully. 15 peer-reviewed journals fast-tracked related papers. Anthropologists revised human evolution models. Geneticists analyzed DNA and confirmed it was distinct but related to Homo sapiens. Primatologists compared Gray to known apes and concluded he was more human than ape. Linguists analyzed his communication and found proto-language capabilities. The consensus was clear. This is a person, not an animal. Legal and ethical protections are required. Academic debate raged, should Gray be studied? Most said yes, but ethically and with consent. What rights does his species have? The debate was between human rights and animal welfare protections. How do we protect without imprisoning? No one had good answers. The ethical question loomed largest. Does humanity owe reparations for genocide? Media analysis was relentless. Major papers ran front-page coverage for over 30 consecutive days. Documentary crews competed for access to me, Sarah, and Gray. Publishers offered 7-figure advances for my story. Multiple studios bid for film rights. Social media hashtags like Justice for Gray, Bigfoot Rights, and Humanity on Trial trended continuously. Public debate divided along predictable lines. The pro-protection majority argued they were people who deserved rights and safety, that we nearly drove them extinct and owed them protection, and that humanity must prove we can coexist with intelligent species. Environmental groups, indigenous tribes, religious progressives, and most scientists supported this position. The anti-protection vocal minority claimed they were dangerous animals that should be controlled or eliminated, that this was a hoax or conspiracy despite evidence that human safety came first because they could attack people, and that they were on our land, so we had the right to hunt them. Hunters, far-right groups, conspiracy theorists, and some religious conservatives held these views. My personal fallout was catastrophic. I was arrested on 12 federal counts of obstruction of justice and theft of government documents, facing 15 to 20 years in prison. My trial was set for January 2024. Bail conditions included house arrest, electronic monitoring, and no contact with Gray. My attorney planned a whistleblower defense using necessity doctrine. The FBI fired me, revoked my pension, and canceled my security clearance. My reputation split. Some called me a hero, others a traitor. My law enforcement career was over. I was unemployable in my field. Legal fees bankrupted me, though a crowdfunding campaign helped. My ex-wife Sarah called to say she understood now why I'd been distant during our marriage. My brother, the journalist, profited from the story, straining our relationship. Most friends abandoned me, though a few supported me. I developed stress-induced heart problems, insomnia, and depression. House arrest and media siege meant I couldn't leave home. But my conviction never wavered. I'd do it again. Gray's people were being killed in silence. Now the world knows whatever happens to me is worth it. Sarah Chen faced her own consequences. Her medical license was suspended pending review. Zoo and aquarium job offers were revoked. She was named co-defendant in my case. The scientific community was divided between those who praised and those who condemned her. Her future was uncertain. She might never practice veterinary medicine again, but she had no regrets. I saved a person's life. That's what doctors do. Gray's fate in the immediate weeks was precarious. He remained hidden in a new location unknown except to Sarah and me. Government searches by the FBI and NSA attempted to locate him. Private bounties reached $10 million for information leading to Gray. Sarah and I refused all interrogation about his location. Gray was safe but frightened as the world closed in around him. In the following months, federal agents surveilled my property, hoping for a slip-up. Technology including phone taps, GPS tracking, and drone surveillance was deployed. Gray went deeper into hiding with minimal contact. Communication was only through secure, encrypted messages on Sarah's phone. Gray's reaction to the revelation was mixed, vindication but terror. He drew for Sarah showing humans everywhere, based on news footage, with himself alone and hiding. His message was, "Told you, humans always hunt what they don't understand." Systemic changes occurred over months. Emergency endangered species listing was granted for Sasquatch Bigfoot, Gigantopithecus americanus. Protected status made killing one a federal crime, with 20 years in prison plus $250,000 fine. Habitat protection designated 15 million acres of forest as critical habitat. An interagency, non-human hominin protection unit was established. Congress allocated a $500 million budget for search, protection, and study law enforcement, created an FBI Bigfoot investigation division. Forest rangers received training in non-lethal response and contact protocols. Penalties were enhanced for harassment, hunting, and habitat destruction. Surveillance included motion cameras, drone patrols, and satellite monitoring of forests. But effectiveness was zero. No individuals were located, none captured. All remained hidden. International response was swift. The UN held an emergency session on non-human person rights. International protection agreements and treaties were negotiated. Other countries began searching for their cryptids, yetis, yoes, almas. A global paradigm shift occurred, questioning how many other intelligent species might be hiding. Cultural impact was profound. Philosophy redefined concepts of person, human, and rights. Theology engaged in debates about souls, creation, and God's plan. Ethics saw human exceptionalism fundamentally challenged. Courts grappled with how to classify Gray's species. Education revolutionized as textbooks were rewritten and anthropology transformed. Pop culture exploded with movies, shows, and books about Bigfoot. The search for others became a priority. 127 sightings were reported, most hoaxes, but some credible. 14 possible individuals were identified through evidence. 3 bodies were recovered, all decades-old remains. 0 living individuals were located beyond Gray. Population estimate settled at 30 to 50 worldwide, possibly fewer. Status was determined as functionally extinct, too few to maintain a viable population. When Gray was told, he drew a few stick figures, isolated from each other and fading. His message was, "We are dying in slow motion, alone, apart, too afraid to find each other." Public sentiment shifted over 6 to 12 months. Initial excitement faded to frustration when no more individuals were revealed. Anger emerged, asking why I wouldn't tell where Gray was. Understanding grew with recognition that revealing his location was a death sentence. Empathy developed as Gray became a symbol of all endangered, hunted, and misunderstood beings. Guilt emerged, with national reckoning about how humanity treats non-human intelligence. Debate continued about what we owe species we nearly destroyed. Now, on November 12, 2025, I'm 68 years old and under house arrest awaiting trial that's been delayed multiple times. I live in a small cabin on the Oregon coast, isolated but mentally sharp, despite declining health from my heart condition and PTSD. Prosecution struggles because public opinion has shifted in my favor, and jury nullification is likely. I maintain weekly video calls with Gray through encrypted connections. His location is still secret. Gray is alive, but his health is deteriorating. He's estimated at 75 to 80 years old. His location remains hidden, known only to Sarah and me. The government has given up active searching and instead monitors me. They're waiting for Gray to die, thinking I might reveal the location of his remains afterward. Gray's daily life continues, alone, watching, waiting, knowing he's the last of his kind. I'm 68 years old now. Gray is still alive, still hiding, still alone. In the 2 years since I revealed his existence, the world has changed and stayed exactly the same. We passed laws protecting his species. We designated millions of acres as habitat. We made it illegal to kill them. But we haven't found any others. We haven't saved anyone. We just made it official that we're sorry for extincting a people. People ask me if I regret it, going public, destroying my life, ending my career. They want me to say yes, to give them permission to believe silence was noble, but I don't regret it. I regret that it took me 23 years. I regret every day I kept the secret while more of Gray's people died alone in the woods, too afraid to reveal themselves, too isolated to find each other. What I learned from Gray changed me in ways I'm still understanding. He showed me what we look like from the outside, from the perspective of an intelligence that has no reason to see us charitably. And what he showed me was true. We are violent, we are destructive, we are cruel, not sometimes, not exceptionally, but systematically, habitually, proudly. But here's what Gray taught me that terrifies me most. We know we're destroying the planet. We know we're killing other species. We know we're violent, wasteful, unsustainable. And we continue anyway. That's not ignorance, that's not accident, that's choice. We choose, every day, to be what we are. Gray survived by hiding from us for 50+ years. He watched us from the shadows, documented our behavior, and came to understand us better than we understand ourselves. And his conclusion? We're not worth revealing himself to. The risk of our violence outweighs any benefit of our help. Think about that. An intelligent being studied humanity for half a century and concluded, better to die alone than trust these creatures. And he was right. What did keeping the secret cost me? My marriage, my peace, my faith in humanity. What did revealing it cost me? My freedom, my career, my safety. Was it worth it? Yes. Because Gray's people deserved to be remembered. They deserved for the world to know they existed, that they were killed, that they vanished, not because they were unfit, but because we were cruel. They deserve to be more than rumors and footprints and blurry photographs. But the real cost? The cost is knowing what Gray knows. Seeing humans through his eyes, I can't unsee it. I can't pretend we're good anymore. I see what we are, and I have to live among us, knowing Gray will die soon, maybe this year, maybe next. He's old, tired, alone. When he dies, the last member of his family group goes with him. There might be 30 or 40 others out there, scattered across the continent, but they'll never find each other. They'll die alone too, one by one, until there are none. And humanity will move on. We'll make movies about them. We'll put their DNA in museums. We'll write papers about the lost hominin species. We'll pat ourselves on the back for the protection laws we passed too late to matter. And we'll forget that we're the reason they're gone. That's Gray's legacy. Evidence that humanity can't coexist with another intelligent species, that we're so dangerous, so violent, so untrustworthy, that another people would rather go extinct in hiding than reveal themselves to us. What does that say about us? If I could say one thing to the world, it's this. Gray was afraid of us, not because he was weak, but because we're dangerous. He survived by understanding us, by watching, learning, hiding. He knew what we'd do if we found him. He was right to be afraid. Look what we've done since his existence was confirmed. Hunters looking for trophies, scientists demanding specimens, government wanting to protect him in a lab or zoo, the media turning his tragedy into entertainment. We proved his fears correct. We are the monster species, not Gray, not his people, us. We're the ones who kill with purpose, who destroy without need, who look at something intelligent, vulnerable, and rare and think, how can I profit from this? How can I control it? How can I use it? Gray spent 50 years watching us and concluded we're not ready to know about his kind. We're too violent, too selfish, too young as a species. He was right. But here's what keeps me going. Gray didn't hate us. Even after everything we did to his people, everything we are, he didn't hate us. He felt sorry for us. He saw us as what we are, a young, dangerous, scared species that doesn't know how to use its intelligence yet. He believed some humans, a few of us, could see what he saw, could choose differently, could be better. He trusted me. That was his gift. After 50 years of hiding from humans, he let one human know him. He taught me. He showed me the truth. And when the time came, he let me tell that truth to the world. That's hope. Not that humanity will change. We won't. Not fast enough to save his species. But that individual humans can see, can understand, can choose to be better than our species' worst impulses. Gray hoped I would prove humans capable of growth. I hope I haven't completely failed him. Last week, I had my video call with Gray. He's thinner now, moving slower. He knows his time is short. Through the camera, through Sarah's translation, he showed me something. He'd carved a stone monument, simple but beautiful. Symbols for his people, the stick figures he'd drawn for me for 23 years. Names maybe, or memories, his family, his species. Evidence they existed. He buried it somewhere in the forest. When he dies, that stone will remain. Long after he's gone, long after I'm dead, that carved stone will sit in the forest, unknown and unseen, marking the spot where the last of his people lived and died alone. He wanted me to know he's not afraid anymore. He made his mark. His people will be remembered, even if only by stones and shadows. That's what 23 years with Gray taught me. Intelligence isn't about dominance. Civilization isn't about buildings. Humanity isn't about being human. It's about bearing witness, about remembering, about honoring what came before and will come after. Gray bore witness to his people's extinction. I bore witness to Gray. Now you bear witness to this story. What you do with that knowledge, that's on you. That's on all of us. Gray's message was simple. We are not the only people who've lived on this earth, but we might be the only ones cruel enough to forget everyone else. I'm 68 years old. Gray is dying. I don't regret telling you the truth, but I'm terrified of what you'll do with it. We are capable of such beauty and such horror. I've seen both in my 30 years with the FBI and my 23 years with Gray. The question isn't whether Bigfoot is real. You know the answer now. The question is, what does it mean that they survived this long by hiding from us? What does it mean that they'd rather go extinct than trust us? That answer should terrify you more than any monster in the woods ever could, because the monsters, they were never in the woods. They've been wearing suits and badges and building cities and calling themselves civilized the whole time. Gray knew that. That was his revelation about humanity. We're terrifying, and the worst part, we already knew.